welcome back, everybody, to the Bitter Wolf Cave. I am your host, the Bitter Wolf, and this is Joshua R. Pangborn. Welcome back.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here today.
Yay, thank you so much for joining me. And today we're talking about Joshua's new movie, The Contract, with Sidekick Productions. Can you tell us a little bit about Sidekick Productions for people who don't know you?
Absolutely. Sidekick Productions is my production company that I started over 10 years ago. We'll just go with that. It's not quite 15. It's a production company based out of New York City. We focus primarily on queer, fat positive, and sex positive storytelling with centering the voices on characters of those types and identities. I have primarily worked in film and television for the bulk of the lifespan of Sidekick Productions, but we've also done theater and we also are now doing books. We do a little bit of everything in our little corner of the media world.
It's beautiful. I love Sidekick Productions so much, and I love talking to you. And we've met before for the Horror Mosaic to discuss your work, but now I'm excited because before we were kind of going over an overview of your career and then your ideas about horror in general, but now we get to focus just on something specific. And we're going to do that in a fun way today. What are we doing? I forgot.
we are playing Connect Four, I believe.
Yes, I almost said bingo. So, folks, we had a bingo game set up, and I don't know. I screwed it up somehow. So we're playing Connect Four instead, which is a little bit more my speed. Did you play Connect Four as a kid?
I had it. See, as a child, I was one of those lonely children without many friends.
No, no.
I had a sister, and sometimes I could get her to play games with me, but most of the time she was outside playing athletic things, and I was not a very athletic child. I'm not an athletic adult, so it's clearly stuck with me. I'm not. It's no reason to change it now. But I had a Connect Four, but we didn't really do much with it. So
Okay, all right. But do you like to make connections in life?
I do like to make connections with life, and that was a lovely segue. Let me just add, that was a wonderful way to slide right into that wonderful, important topic of connecting. Because we've talked about that. We think it's really
Yeah.
important to not just make connections, but to support one another in the community, and the community that we
Yep.
build together is it's really important. And that's why I'm so thankful
Absolutely.
for people like you who want to support independent creators because you're an independent creator, and I am, and we need to help each other.
Absolutely. We got to unite as a community. I think that's an important mission. And you help us do it by the work that you do, and you help us to highlight voices that are not typically highlighted as much in our community so that we can become even stronger in that area as well. But let's go ahead and get to the game because we don't want to use all of our points before we start the game talking
True.
about our topics. So the way we have this is we are going to have 4 by 4 topics. So we have 16 different topics we're going to cover. And you're going to pick a topic you want to talk about related to you. This is all about you. It's always about you. What is it?
I love it when it's about me, so that's fantastic.
Okay.
I guess. Let's see. Well, technically, you picked the first topic because you picked Sidekick Productions, which
Oh,
is
I did. I did.
so.
Okay.
So technically, you have your first square on the board.
Okay. Let
If
me
we're putting
highlight
it that
this.
way.
All
Um,
right. I'm going to highlight this square and I'm going to add this in post production so you'll see a nice square highlighted.
Um, let's see. Why don't I go with, well, I guess we'll go with the contract because that's the reason that I
Yep.
think that I'm most focused right now on doing something outside of the world. The contract is a very important topic to me because it's the next movie that I'm making, everybody. So I need your help with it, please.
Yes.
The contract though is it is my next feature film. I've made 2 feature films so far, and this is our third feature. It is going to be very, very much from the world of something I would make, but very also very different than anything I've made before.
Okay.
I would say it's probably sort of. I've been calling it a couple different things, but what I think I've settled on is it's a gothic erotic horror film. So, uh,
Ooh,
so
fancy.
for those of you who like erotic horror and you've missed it because it's sort of gone out of the way, it's not the 90s anymore. Well, we're going to try to bring it back. So that's what this is. It's a movie about a character who is looking for love. His name is Oliver. He's looking for love and family and a sense of belonging because aren't we all? And he thinks he finds it in a character named Bartolo, who has a mysterious estate in the middle of nowhere because everyone that's
Ooh,
what you have. I mean,
that's
when you're
great.
when you're a mysterious person, you have an estate. So that's
Yes.
what happens. So Oliver decides he's going to move out there and enter in a relationship with Bartolo. Bartolo is a BDSM master, and
Oh, okay.
Oliver has decided he's going to try to enter into this BDSM world as Bartolo's newest submissive. He's doing it because he wants to find a home and a family and a place to belong. And he gets there, and then of course everything just starts to go wrong from there. So
I like when things go wrong. That's one of my favorite things in a movie, of course. That's why I seek out the horror genre.
because nothing ever goes right in the horror genre at all, unfortunately. Um, Sometimes even the endings don't go right. So
Yes, and that's the ones I like the best, the ones that make you feel like just there's no hope in the world at the end. But that's my personal issue, I think, or my preference. I don't know. What do you like in your endings?
it depends on it depends on the mood. Sometimes I'd like a nice happy ending.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just need a happy ending, but in a horror film, so it's covered in blood and everything.
Yeah.
Um, like like Ready or Not, like that's a happy ending. But
Sure.
she's clearly drenched in blood. So, and
Yeah.
I also don't know how they're doing a sequel to that, but that's another story. But I do like those movies where things just end hopelessly or they end. I don't like I'm not the biggest fan of that last minute jump scare in a horror film where it's
Oh,
like
okay.
because I want an ending and that's not really an ending. It's sort of just sort of sets you up for the next movie. Which I'm not I want the next movie. I'm gonna watch it, but I like sort of like I like a bleak ending, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily like an ending that has like that last jump. I
Oh,
guess
I see.
the only one I'm thinking, I guess the one I'm thinking about right now is I think Thanksgiving did that, didn't it?
I can't remember. I can't remember the ending of Thanksgiving. Although I have seen several movies that I know what you're talking about.
I'm not
Um,
talking about like Carrie because like Carrie does it really well. Like Carrie has that
yes.
last moment of like where she's Sue's walking down, she gets grabbed by Carrie and from the rubble of everything, and then she wakes
Yeah.
up and it's a like that's different. That's fine because she's dreaming and it's a horror. It's the horror. She can't ever get away from that horror. That's an actual ending where the horror is
Yes.
sticking with you and all that. Because
Yes.
you'll never get out of that. You'll never get away from it. But
Exactly.
it's not just sort of like the killer just came back again and can't get away from them. So
Well, yeah, and it's like I totally agree with what you're saying because it's about the sticking with you aspect. So if you throw that jump scare in at the last second, and actually it's good you brought up Carrie because that's where it came from. It started with that, I think. And
did
then
it?
lots of people,
I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion, but yes. And then you can track it with a lot of movies that were really heavily reliant upon jump scares that came out after that. It kind of kills the thing that it could have left you with.
Yeah.
So if it's not done right, but it can be done right.
Yeah. It can definitely be done right. It just has to be done in the right way.
Yeah.
All that to say, though, I mean, I love horror movies, so every ending is pretty much a fun ending. So, I mean,
Yes. I
uh,
mean, that's true. That's great. I mean, and also I'm very happy just watching any ending at all. But I love erotic thrillers, and that's part of why I love watching Sidekick production movies because there's a heavy influence of eroticism and sex, and you don't shy away from anything. So sex is going to be my next category. Is it my turn?
it is your turn. And I was just about to say, you probably just picked the sex category then, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You're right though. I think it's really important to not shy away from something. I know that if you if you spend a lot of time on Twitter and places like that, you see that there's seems to be a pushback on sex in movies and sex in books and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's even so far as some people are saying that it's an abuse of the person who's reading or watching it to take part in a sex scene. And it's like, but
Right.
sex is such a part of our lives, and
Yes.
it's such a weird, prudish, puritanical approach to trying to get rid of sex from films and all that. I think it's great to do it artistically. I think it doesn't have to be um in your face or anything, but I think there's nothing wrong with it being in your face too. Like some of it
Sure.
is like the 80s horror films, like they do a great job of um highlighting and showing the human body in a way that treats it both in a very beautiful way, but also in a very real way. Like this,
Yeah.
like when you're showering, you're not going to be like sitting there covering your body parts and being all like, "I'm going to shower by covering." You're alone. You're in the shower. Like
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think Anna Paquin talked about this when she was doing sex scenes for True Blood. Um,
Oh, okay.
she wouldn't wear a bra in the sex scenes because she didn't wear a bra when she had sex in real life. I may be making this up, so if anyone out there knows, correct me on that. But I'm almost certain
Sure.
I remember that.
That's interesting. That didn't make sense. Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I want for me, it's also there's a whole other layer to it. I mean, queer sex scenes are very much non-existent in mainstream media, or if they are, they're done in a way that's very safe and I I I, I want to say pasteurized, which isn't doesn't make any sense at all. But I guess we're gonna go with
I
that
know
though.
what you mean. I know
It's a
what you
very
mean.
pasteurized approach to sex scenes when you do queer film. Um, uh, and it's just not what we queer people deserve to have representation on screen as well. I mean, I
Yeah.
use this all the time, and people are probably if people have watched many interviews with me, they're going to be tired of me saying this. But if you look at Modern Family is the perfect example of a show where you had some hot and heavy scenes for a sitcom on NBC, some hot and heavy scenes between a man and a woman, a man and a
Yeah.
woman, but never between two men. And
Right.
there were three couples, a man and a woman, a man and a woman, and two men. Two of them got hot and heavy for a sitcom all the time, and one of them barely slept in the same bed together. And
Right.
yet they were all long-term partners and all. So,
Yep.
um, and that's because these are things that are made for cishet audiences, and so with Sidekick Productions, we really try to make movies and shows and stories for people who are queer audiences because that's they don't have that representation in mainstream media. And I take it a step further because a lot of what we do is fat positivity as well. You rarely, if ever, see a fat person in any media, independent or otherwise, having any sort of sexuality or
Right.
engaging in sex on screen. And I think it's important that you show that because people have sex and
Yeah.
it's fine. And sometimes sometimes characters are asexual, and that's fine too, but then show them engaging and celebrating their sexuality because asexuality doesn't mean you are without sexuality. It means that you are without the sexual attraction, but you still have romantic approaches sometimes, unless you're aromantic,
Yeah.
but that's a whole other story. But anyway, I could go on this for hours, but basically, you're right. I think it's really important that we celebrate and have more eroticism in our work, and I think that there's a resistance to that nowadays. But I think, especially, like I'll say it because it happens as we're recording it right now. I think it's important, especially for the next 4 years, that we
Yeah.
really don't shy away from what makes us human and what makes us uh, well, in some cases, what makes for queer people, what makes us queer, or what makes us celebrate who we are, and that's being afraid of our bodies is wrong. Being afraid of nudity is wrong. Being afraid of uh, all those eroticism is wrong. I think so.
Absolutely agree with everything you've said here. And I think it's deeply important because one of the main things, I'm not going to get too specific in terms of politics or anything, but one of the main things is the desire to feel shame, to make people feel shame about their bodies and about their sexuality and their identities, and even about the act of creating something or the act of being empathetic. There's all the list goes on and on, and even the idea of community. They want people to be isolated so they can
Hmm.
control the thinking, and make people hate each other. So I think, yeah, we have to keep having these conversations, but more importantly, we need to keep promoting people who are making art and highlighting why it's important to consume it. So thanks for coming here today.
I'm so glad to be here for that. So,
Yes.
uh,
Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I guess it's my turn then. Like, so
Oh,
I guess I would shift to queer storytelling then, because I think that's a natural segue for that. So,
yes. There was, let's see, we have fat positivity on here. We have queer storytelling, both of which you touched on. So whichever one you want to go for, be strategic.
um,
Remember, we're playing the game too.
you're right. I
So
should be more
I might
strategic.
win.
So,
Yeah.
um, I will go with fat positivity, I think.
Great. Okay.
Because that,
Uh,
yeah, I have to cut you off, and I need to do that. So, uh,
yes.
and also it's a very important topic to me.
Absolutely.
Obviously, because that's one of the cornerstones of Sidekick Productions. It's just not, it's not something that you see in a lot of media, and I think you're starting to see it a little bit more. I think that people are less and less afraid to celebrate being in a different body from or straight sized is not being straight sized is what they say.
Right.
I think that at the same time there's still a reluctance to put people of different body types in other movies and things. I know that I find it difficult to get cast at times, unless the role is specifically for a character who looks exactly like me. Um,
Right.
and I think it's unfortunate that more people are not taking risks with what it means to cast people of different body types, because there are a lot of really great parts that I submit for that I don't get called in for just because you know that they're not thinking of somebody who looks like me. And
Yeah.
again, I hate talking about this, but I think that this is something that we've seen a lot of companies get rid of DEI and things in the recent weeks, and I think that this is an area that filmmakers will look to not get, to get rid of as well, because I think that a lot of filmmakers started to approach the idea of casting people of different body types because they felt they were supposed to, or maybe they felt like they wanted to because they wanted to fit in with what the direction the society was going. But
Right.
I think very much so that there's going to be a change in that, because as people as we've gotten rid of DEI and things in certain companies, and I think that that's a natural extension of this as well.
Yep.
That being
Absolutely.
said, Sidekick Productions, we are always going to be casting fat people. So come and watch our work if you want to see some fat representation on screen. Because I don't shy away from that, and I think it's really important again that fat positivity for me, it means something different. I think for everybody. Uh, for me, it means celebrating our bodies, not being afraid of them, and treating them as beautiful, regardless
Yeah.
of what our size looks is or what we look like, and not being afraid to wear certain clothes or not wear clothes in certain situations, and just being open to being who we are. So
Yep. Yeah, and all of the fullness of the person that you are too. We've talked about this before, where we have fat characters in shows that were horrible stereotypes in some way, or they were just the funny friend or something like that, and they weren't given any sexuality, or they were just kind of a pasteurized version, as you said. So
I like that now. So we're gonna go with that. So
we're gonna go with it. So that's why I love what you do, and I've said to you before, I consider it groundbreaking, and it clearly resonates because You have significant followings on social media now for the things that you do, and a lot of your work is also web-based. So you have two shows
Yep.
on YouTube as well. Um, should we go ahead and talk about one of those for the game? Let's
I think
see.
I think what for 1 second, just because I think to connect fat positivity to the contract, I mean,
Yes.
you're gonna
Oh,
the
yes.
one of the things about the contract is that we will there will be a lot of nudity and near nudity in the movie, and I am playing one of the roles, so I am I am nervous in some ways because I'm putting myself out there in a way that has a lot of I've been shirtless and things in my shows and my movies, but this will be like very much putting ourselves out there in ways that you don't typically see people who look like me doing, and we've got other actors doing the same thing, and that's because we're really playing up the idea of gothic eroticism,
Yep.
but at the same time, it's doing it in a very sidekick way, and so you're going to see us celebrating and revealing bodies that you don't typically see seen celebrated or revealed. Um, but again, I also don't like to call attention to it. I don't sit there and go, "Oh, well, this character, look how brave you are," or something like
Right.
no one does that in my movies or my shows because it's not about being brave. There's nothing brave about about loving your body. It's just what you should do. So
Yeah, and that's the element that's the key I think that makes me call it groundbreaking is because that's the element you don't really see very often. Or you don't really see at all, to be honest with you. I'm really looking forward to this, especially the BDSM elements. I'm really excited about. I think this is going to be fun. And yeah, okay. You want to talk about
well, it's your turn
the
now. So
Oh, okay. Let's go. Let's see. So we have, are you keeping track as well? So
I
you can
am. So
see.
far,
Okay.
I've got two and you've got two, so it's your turn. So
Oh, I see. I see where we're at here. All right. Well, let's talk about, uh, you have a couple of shows on YouTube as well that
mhm.
have been going for quite some time. So I want to go ahead and talk about, Demon Doctor.
Demon Doctor. Yes. Uh, if you are paying attention on my channel right now, then you'll see that Demon Doctor is currently going through its second season. We had a bit of a delay, and it took us about a year. Season two was in full force for 2023, and then unfortunately in 2024 we had a shift in post production. We had to change some things, and so it took us a bit of a year to find new people to come in and do audio work and on music and all that. But I'm very fortunate that we did, and now the rest of season two is coming out right now. There were the first half of season two was 7 episodes. The second half of season two is 5 episodes. We have 3 episodes that have just come out, so there's two more to go. Demon Doctor, though, for those of you who don't know, I'm taking it for granted you all do. Demon Doctor is very much my homage to 90s genre fiction in pretty much every way. I love 90s television, and I love to celebrate and watch those shows. And when I was going to make a horror series, I knew that I was going to draw on those shows. So I took shows like Buffy and Angel and the X Files, and I said, how would I do these shows? So I did Demon Doctor. Demon Doctor is the story of Derek, a demonologist, and Mark, a detective who believes in the supernatural, and their quest to fight things that go bump in the night and all the ways that they go bump in the night because not together, but it's a it's a very queer show. Again, I do everything I do is queer, so this is a queer show, and I believe strongly in making sure that we celebrate queer voices in this show. I tend to with this show, it's very much all practical effects. So there's a little bit
Beautiful.
of very basic CG, not CGI, but like digital overlays and all that for like magic effects and all. But really,
Right,
pretty
right.
much, it's all practical effects. You've got amazing makeups for monsters. You've got amazing makeup effects for kills and all. So it's really fun and it's really weird and wacky. The first season is all on YouTube at demondoctor.com. The second season is currently going through YouTube and it's also at demondoctor.com. And you can get some really awesome shirts as well for it at sidekicksupermarket.com. I love Demon Doctor so much. I'm hoping to do at least one more season after we're done with this one. I don't know when we'll film it, but or I still have to write it, so I guess I should do that first.
Maybe that's a good place
Um,
to start.
but if you like The Contract or any of my other feature films, a lot of the actors from those movies are in Demon Doctor, and they do an amazing work. Paul Anzulis is incredible with his makeup effects. He's a self-taught makeup artist who learned for Demon Doctor. He taught himself to do makeup so that way he could do Demon Doctor. So and I am very very grateful for that. It was hard to make Demon Doctor because I didn't know how long it would take to do makeup effects
Oh
and
yeah,
monster makeups. And so the first season in particular, I learned a lot. And I learned like, oh my God, this is so much time that it's gonna take to do things. I'm used to zipping through things on set.
yeah,
And unfortunately with Demon Doctor, we were not able to do that because I had to factor in time for makeups. And sometimes makeups could take 2 even 3 hours to do for one character. And
sure.
I was like, oh, this is such a learning experience making season one. And so with season two, um, I don't know if I learned from that because I made things even harder for my makeup artist, but but I
You
still
get more ambitious.
I got more ambitious is what it is. So
Yeah.
but last my favorite episode of Demon Doctor is currently on streaming right now. So we made it we once things started to get a little bit more relaxed in the pandemic era, uh, my friends, a couple of us rented a cabin. The one we were all in a bubble together, and we rented a cabin to go and film the one episode of Demon Doctor I knew was going to take place in the cabin. So we needed to get out of the city. We needed to get
Yep.
a break because uh, this was the COVID years, so it was really you needed to get away from all of the drama, the negativity, everything that's going on in the world. You just wanted to go somewhere. So
Yeah.
we rented a cabin for a few days, and we went and filmed an episode of Demon Doctor, and it was the first thing we filmed. We filmed it in 2020, and it's now 2025, and it's finally out. Normally my stuff doesn't take this long to come out, but we've had a lot of hiccups along the way for making this happen. So
Yeah, but it's worth it whenever you finally get it, and you can enjoy it because it's a lot of fun to watch.
it is. I the pandemic did many things for many people. One of the things it taught me was a little bit more patience when it comes to
Mm.
releasing the work that I do, and a little bit more understanding when things take longer. So I guess patience is what it taught me, basically.
Okay, that's good. Well, this is another thing. Demon Doctor, Skeleton Crew is another show that you have on YouTube. But I don't want to take your turn, but I did want to say that if you enjoy watching these shows, which I think anyone should go watch these shows because they're funny, they're tender, they have action in them, they have mystery, they have all kinds of stuff for you to enjoy. Erotic thriller elements, horror elements. So musicals, yeah. Um,
I guess I think well I should probably be strategic here. So I guess as much as I want to talk about Skeleton Crew, we should probably go to homophobias right now.
well, how about this? You can get a free pass. Say whatever you want about Skeleton Crew, and then segue to
Well,
homophobia.
so Skeleton Crew is the first series that we made, and we're still making it. We've had 5 seasons of Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew is as much as it sounds like it's a horror series, it's actually not a horror series. It's a queer soap opera. Now because I made it, there's a lot of horror elements in it, but
Yeah,
it's very much not a horror series. There is a ghost though, but it's a ghost that is very um more like a sassy woman than it is a ghost. So
I love that.
um and people do die in it, but it's again it's a soap opera. It's really very much a soap opera. We've had 5 seasons, and as you said, including a musical episode, which has 15 original songs that were made by me and my co-writer for the musical Nikia.
Yeah.
Uh, it's pretty. I like to talk about Skeleton Crew as a great example of watching independent filmmakers develop as filmmakers because
Yeah.
season one, we had no idea what we were doing. I was like, I want to make a show. I don't know what I'm doing. I did theater for decades at that point. I had never made anything with film, and somehow I was like, you know what? I want to try doing something on screen. So I got my friends together and said, let's try to make a series. And most people, when they do a web series, there's like 5 episodes, and each is like 5 to 10 minutes. Um, I did a 12 episode season one where every episode was 30 minutes or more. And because I was like, I was making a TV series, I wasn't making a web series. I just didn't understand that there were slightly different mediums. So,
I love that.
somehow I made a full length web television series for our first attempt at making anything film related, and it's actually really good. I don't even say that because I'm biased. I think it's really good, and I think a lot of people feel that way too because they all tuned in and they all came back for more. So there
Yeah.
are technical flaws everywhere. I had no idea what I was doing with sound or with sound design or sound mixing or lights, but I knew overall what I wanted to look like, and I had some amazing cast members, and I think a pretty good story. So from there, we just took that. Season two is where we really sort of find our footing, though. Much like Buffy and other shows,
Yeah,
we
for
take a
sure.
season to develop, and then after that, we were like, "Oh, this is what we are." So, with Skeleton Crew, a lot of the actors weren't able to come back for season two, so the main characters. So it was sort of like a soft reboot in some ways. We kept all the storylines, everything from season one, but we moved on to a new focus, and then from there we have what we have now. So it's a queer soap opera about two characters named Hunter and Anthony. They are a gay bear couple, and they uh, um, work together to have a lot of weird and wild adventures in New York City with their friends and family. And it's everything from owning a bar to there's a random vampire character that may or may not be a vampire, but seems to show up and wants people's blood for health inspection reasons. There's a celebration of kink and eroticism throughout. There's a celebration of open relationships because most of the characters are poly and open. There's it's very much everything you could want to see in a queer soap opera where characters are not all looking the exact same way or behaving in a very cishet way. Again, it's a
Yeah.
show for queer people. Um,
Yeah.
I think that I think it has elements of Queer as Folk, probably, especially if anybody grew up watching Queer as Folk. I was of the era that Queer as Folk was probably the first series on television that really did anything that was remotely for queer people in a way that was never seen before in the U.S. I still think elements of Whereas Folk were for us for a more mainstream audience, and that's the difference between that and Skeleton Crew, because Skeleton Crew is really for a queer audience, and it's really for a queer audience that looks for diversity in their body in representation of body types and even sexual identities, because
Sure.
we have characters who are trans. We have characters of all identities throughout the series rather. So
Yeah, amazing. And that's again, that's part of the reason that I love this show. I mean, the work that you do at Sidekick Productions, because I feel like there's something for everybody, and you always have such a big cast too. So they really are able to represent a lot of people because of that. And your casts often involve people that you work with on a regular basis, and you've worked with them in your shows and in your movies as well. Wait, is it your turn or my turn?
That was a freebie you said, so I guess it's my turn.
It's your turn. Oh yes,
Uh,
pick yours. That's what I said.
so I will go with homophobias then. Uh,
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
so Homophobias is the first book that I ever released. Homophobias, it came out September 13th, 2024, and it is a collection of queer, fat positive, short horror stories. Um, and then spoiler alert, anybody who reads Homophobias will find out that the contract is based on Under Contract, which is a story and
Oh,
homophobia. Uh,
okay, great.
all of the stories in Homophobias are things that I will probably film at some point in my life because they all started as ideas for scripts. And
Super
I
cool. Yeah.
I knew I wanted to make a book, and my editor for the book, Diffur Jackson, he came to me and said we should make a book, and I said okay, I want to, and he took all the hard work with editing and formatting and all that, but I needed to figure out the stories because that's obviously the meat and potatoes of a book are the written words. So I thought about what I wanted to write about, and I was inspired by Brandon from the Monster Makeup Company because
Yep.
he has been taking a lot of his screenplays and adapting them into novels, and I thought, you know what, that's a great way for me to get my ideas on paper for scripts.
Yeah.
And also get them out there so people are reading them and see what people respond to. So
Perfect.
I did that. So I have 9 stories in Homophobias. Each one is about. So Homophobias is probably best described as the quest for love and all the ways that it goes wrong. Uh,
Beautiful. I
uh,
like
it's
that.
it's fun because I wrote it without worrying about filming it. So even though these are all things that I wanted to write, I want to film someday, I didn't sit there thinking, how am I going to pull this off? How am I going to actually do this on camera? What I thought
You
about
don't
was,
have to.
what is
Yeah.
the story I want to tell? And I wrote it out there. And oh, I disappeared for a second. So
It's
uh,
freeing.
because that's what I was freed to do that really, and I really loved it because I got to do things that I don't normally do, and sometimes that's why I think the stories are a little bit darker and a little bit more a little bit grander in scope in some ways
Mm,
at times
yeah.
because I freed myself from the need to film it to write it. So
Yeah.
I really love the book. It seems to have been well received by people who have read it, and I can't wait for more people to read it and write about it. Leave reviews and things on Goodreads and all because it's been well received by everybody who has told me they've read it though. So
Yes, and also if you donate to the contract at Indiegogo, I believe you can get a copy of Homophobias. Is that right?
you will, yes. One of the perks on the Indiegogo for the contract, which you can find at thecontractfilm.com, but one of the perks that you can get for donating to the contract is you'll be one of the first people to get the hardcover version of Homophobias, because I will be
Beautiful.
releasing the hardcover version of Homophobias later this year, and you can get it if you donate for that perk. So
I think that's awesome. And you'll also be helping to make one of Joshua Pangborn's next movies, which is a huge perk, I think, even without the
I
book.
yes, please. I need your help. So thank you for that.
Yes, yes, for sure. And we'll keep saying it as we continue to go through our great championship match of what is this called? Connect Four.
Connect Four, yes.
Okay, so let's see. It's my turn now, and we have a lot of blocks set up here. But I really do want to talk about your movies. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Brooklyn Butcher
Ah, yes, yes.
because we have to talk about Brooklyn Butcher.
Well, I know you're a fan of Brooklyn Butcher.
I love Brooklyn Butcher.
I am very, very grateful that you love it so much because it's one of my favorite things that I've ever made. I really
Yeah.
do love the film. Brooklyn Butcher is my love letter to horror, basically. It is an anthology feature film that takes place in a Brooklyn apartment building one hot, sweaty night in the summer. As the city is under siege by a fear of the Brooklyn Butcher. Um, the police are investigating a possible victim of the butcher in a Brooklyn apartment building, and they go from room to from apartment to apartment and speak to the tenants there. And meanwhile, those poor tenants are each going through their own individual horror story at the same time. So uh, it's very much a love letter to horror, like I said. Every story in the anthology is essentially a different subgenre of horror. So
Yep.
you get to explore everything from cosmic horror to slasher to an homage to The Evil Dead to uh, to my twist on Dexter to it's all sorts of things.
Uh,
So
it's great. It's so much fun. It's hilarious. It's very well written. You have, again, another thing I love about Sidekick Productions is you'll have very sincere, tender moments right up next to something very dark. Or you'll have something very silly even. You know, you talked about camp. We've talked about how camp is an important part of your work too. And so that makes an appearance in Brooklyn Butcher. You
very
also
much
make an
so.
appearance in Brooklyn
Yes,
Butcher.
I make several appearances in Brooklyn Butcher, in different ways. You see different sides of me than you've ever seen before. Brooklyn Butcher is a really fun film. What I like about it is that the characters overlap with one another. So you could watch just one of the stories and get an individual short story. But if you watch them all together, all nine of them, you will see how things play out, and you'll see that there's
Mm.
actually a larger story throughout the whole thing, which again isn't terribly original in the sense of like no one's ever done it before, but it's I think not something that's often done in anthologies because I think a lot of times with horror anthologies it's really I see four short films, I'm gonna put them all together and then package it and give it to you,
Yes. Yeah.
and this is more of a everything was curated to be part of this anthology. So
Yeah, and you know what? When we first talked about this movie, I had in my notes talk about the anthology aspect, but we actually didn't end up talking about it because when I finished watching it, I was like, this functions even more as just a narrative film that's told in a non-linear fashion. That's why I didn't even bring it up the anthology aspect. But I did see the anthology structure to it, which I love anthology. So the subgenres, I think there's something for everybody here. So I can't wait for everyone to have access to Brooklyn Butcher.
I'm hoping very, very much that we will have a Blu-ray available that later this year. So that is my goal. If anyone knows how to make ISO files, though, please let me know, and then I will be able to
Let
maybe
me.
get started on that. So because that's the only thing holding me back from fully releasing it on Blu-ray because I don't know how to make
Okay.
an ISO file.
All right. Whatever he just said, if you're out there and you know how to do that, talk to
Give me a
Joshua.
ring, a DM, an email, whatever it is you want to do. But let me know. Uh,
Yes.
but no, I love Brooklyn Butcher. Originally, it was supposed to be just a small little series on YouTube. Like I was just gonna put it on YouTube as a quick web series. And I was trying to do it as a traditional web series where everything was only about 10 to 15 minutes long. So
Okay.
so that's what I initially started as, but then I realized, wait a minute, this is really more of a feature aspect because I want people to watch it all in like yes, you can watch it one episode and that's it, but I really want people to watch it as get the whole story from it.
Yeah.
So I shifted very quickly from the idea of releasing it on YouTube and moved into the idea of putting it as one feature. And some people were sort of like, no, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to. So I have learned
I'm glad you always do what you're going to do.
it's important. I love to work with other people, but I also think it's really important to believe in the vision that I have, and
Yeah.
because 99% of the time when I believe strongly in something, I'm not I succeed in making something that I didn't expect I could do, but it turns out great. Like I had people tell me we weren't ready to make a full length musical episode of Skeleton Crew, but we did, and I think it's one of the best things we've ever done. We've got some amazing songs that you would never ever think we would could do if I didn't believe in that. I've had
Yeah.
people tell me we weren't ready to make a feature film, and we did make a feature film. We made two, so
And
and now we're
then
making our third.
And they're both great, by the way. They were released in, well, they did the festival release in the same month. Is that right?
They did. Both of them had their premiere in October of 2024 at different festivals. So I was
Crazy.
very happy that that was the case. So
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, let's go look at the game update here. And I think it's your turn.
it is. So I think I will go with um I think I will go with acting.
Acting. Okay, here we go. We talked a little bit about, or you sort of referenced it a little bit when you were talking about your role in Brooklyn Butcher. But do you want to get a little more specific? Or maybe you can juxtapose your two different roles in Taste of Youth and then Brooklyn Butcher. And then I'll give
Sure.
you an extra point for Taste of Youth.
Oh well, thank you. Um, so I am I love acting. Acting is a big part of what I want to do with my life. I want to be a professional actor. I think I am a professional actor. I shouldn't
Yes,
sell
I would say
myself
so.
short. I shouldn't sell myself short just because I'm not doing it every day of my life. Uh,
Yeah.
but this is a side note, but I think it's very easy for independent artists to think that they're not professional, quote unquote,
Oh, absolutely.
because you have to have a day job just to survive, or a survival job. And I often find myself slipping into that same mindset where it's like, well, someday I'll be professional, but it's like, no, we are professional. We are doing what we do, and succeeding at it, but we just also have to do it in a way that is not supported by the mainstream. So
Right. Exactly.
that's me on my soapbox about independent filmmaking and everything, everybody. So forget about.
I endorse that message.
But acting wise, I've been very lucky that I've been able to act in some fun projects. I've even been able to act in some mainstream projects. I my biggest thing to date that is available to watch is an episode of Poker Face. So if you have seen Poker Face, episode 8 with Natasha Lyonne, you have a blink and you'll miss it clip of me at the begining. So
That's awesome.
but it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to work with Natasha Lyonne for a quick 2 lines, and I don't say that
That's
in a
so cool,
disparaging
though.
way. I really am grateful that I had that opportunity. Even 2 lines with her is something that I never thought as a little gay boy watching her in But I'm a Cheerleader in High
Yeah.
School at Home that I would ever have had a chance to do. So,
Oh, for sure. Amazing. That's really
um,
cool.
but I love acting. I love I and having my own company means that I have a chance to act in roles that people wouldn't cast me in because I think that there's a lot of things that I would want to do, and so the characters I play in Skeleton Crew and Demon Doctor give me are roles that I would never probably get cast as by other people because of most of the way I look, but also the way that uh, I guess the way that I have an affect in some ways. Like most people are not surprised when I tell them that I'm gay because I have a bit of a gay affect, is what you would say. And
Okay.
it's one of those things that's hard to get rid of in certain roles. Like it doesn't always disappear because like I'm not very good at playing straight trucker. Like you wouldn't probably see me cast
Really?
as, but I get called in for those roles, and then I open my mouth, and they're like, "Oh no, you're not going to play those roles."
Oh,
But I
no.
look like I should, so it's the problem with that. This juxtaposition,
I
but
think I still you played okay. Well, I think Declan is slightly different than
I well,
the
and it
trucker.
is. I wanted to push
Yeah.
myself with it, like because originally with Brooklyn Butcher, I don't remember if I told you, I cast myself as Dimitri.
Oh,
Uh,
yes. Yeah.
I wrote the part for me as Dimitri. I wrote Dimitri for me, and I thought I'm going to play Dimitri. And then my friend
That was
Stuart
cool.
was like, "I would really love to play Dimitri," and I'm like, "Okay, well, let's see, what can I play then?" I had already written Declan, and I thought I guess I could try. It's a different role for me. Um, I want to push myself in different ways, and so I did. And I gave myself Declan, which is a very different role. He's a lot more alpha than I usually play, but it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do something that was so outside of what I usually do because in A Taste of Youth, my other movie, I am very much the a little bit more me. I'm it's a little bit more sassy, a little bit more a little sweet romantic husband type, and a little bit the final gay.
Yeah.
Um, so but what I love about having my company is that I have a chance to act in all of these things and try different roles because when we produced our other series, The Art of Blowing It, that my friend Ashley created, she cast me as Felix, and Felix is super different from me because he's well, I guess he's not super different, but he's very different. He's different from how I try to usually portray myself as an actor, because he's a very hyper, very fast talking, very histrionic, which is all things that sound like me, but are really not because they're a little bit more than what I do. I tend to play a lot of characters who get lost in the head and get lost in the in thinking and thoughts
Uh,
and are a little bit more uh, academic in many ways. And so
mm.
I love a chance to break free of that. And again, by having my own company, I get a chance to do that all the time. So
Sure, absolutely. And we want to see you. We want to put you in more people's horror movies. That's the
yes,
dream.
more than anything else, please cast me in your horror movie because I would love to come and be in your horror movie. I have won awards
Yes.
for acting, so I have a resume that means that I am not bad at what I do. In fact, I'm apparently good enough at
I'm
what I
not
do to
bad.
get awards. So and they're
Joshua,
horror awards. So
trust me, I'm not bad at what I do. Yeah, I'm great at what I do.
I am great. People have given me awards for it. So you
Yeah.
have to cast me in your horror movie, even if I'm the
Yes,
first person that dies. I don't care. Just cast
exactly.
me. But no, I
Yeah.
in all seriousness, if you are making a horror movie, please cast me.
Yes, we want to see you in more horror. I love your acting. I think it's great, and
Thank
I love
you.
to see you stepping out of that in Brooklyn Butcher. And I hope everyone will get to watch Brooklyn Butcher. And if you love Brooklyn Butcher and you love Taste of Youth, there's another movie coming out soon that you might want to help out. And what movie is that, Joshua?
That's called The Contract, and you can help us at thecontractfilm.com right now because we are in the middle of our Indiegogo campaign, and you watching can come and help us make that happen.
I can do it too.
You can too. Yeah, everybody can.
Wow.
Every
Okay.
person
Well,
who's here watching this can come and help us make. And honestly, I did the math. If 140 people gave us $100, we would have enough money to fund our movie completely.
that's actually pretty cheap. I would
It's
say.
not very bad. No, I try to run a very tight ship with the budget. Um
Yep.
so honestly, if 140 people watch this and each want to give me $100, we're set.
You know what? And so whenever I quit drinking a couple years ago, I did the math about how much I was spending every week on drinking, and I was like, instead of doing this, I could do things I always wanted to do, and I can help support people who are making things as well. So I made a budget about how much I can donate to certain things every month. So if you find yourself out there wanting to contribute to something that makes a difference, and how can movie making make a difference?
Well, from my experience, movie making makes a
I
difference
didn't mean to put you
when
on the spot, sir.
no, I think it's something I actually someone asked me about recently. What
Yeah.
do you do that is how do you feel about the work that you create and all? And yes, I mean I make silly, campy movies with monsters and blood and things like that. I'm not making the next Oscar-winning picture with uh, I don't know Cynthia Erivo because of Wicked. I can't remember think of anything else, but I'm not making those movies.
Sure.
I'm making fun movies
Sure.
about gay fat people who kill monsters. That's what I do. But why is it important? It's because no one else is. No one else
Yep.
is making those movies. And there are gay fat people out there. There are fat people out there. There are gay people out there that want to see themselves represented on screen. And I cannot tell you, and I'm not bragging when I say this, but I cannot tell you the number of people who have reached out to me to talk about how grateful they are to see what they see on screen because we're putting it out there. And
Yep.
that's what's important because this is for some people, it's life changing.
Yep.
I've had people tell me that they discovered that it's okay to love people that they want to love because of my shows. I've had people tell me that they have felt seen because of they've seen themselves on screen. I've had people reach out and thank me because they're in countries that they can't express themselves at all, and they've seen what we do with Skeleton Crew or with Demon
Yeah.
Doctor with our movies, and they feel they feel, at least even if they can't be it, they feel supported by it. And
Yeah.
it's so important. I never ever thought when I put Skeleton Crew out there that I would be getting messages like that. I just wanted
Yep.
people to watch it and enjoy the work that we were doing and celebrate the actors involved. But I didn't realize until I started getting those messages that we actually were doing something even more important than
Yep.
just celebrating one another. We were also celebrating the world that we wanted to see represented. And that is why it's so important to help independent film, because they are the ones, not just me, but everybody who is an independent filmmaker, they are making the big choices. They're the ones who are making the big steps in representation and diversity. The filmmakers who tell stories about trans characters, the filmmakers who tell stories about people living in poverty. These are all the stories that you're not seeing because the mainstream is not doing that. Because, and again, nothing wrong with mainstream movies. There's so many wonderful things out there, but they don't take the risks. They
Yeah.
don't take the risks that independent creators will do. And that is why it's so important to celebrate and support them, because they that's where the risks come from.
Absolutely. And as we touched on earlier, it's important more than ever to have visibility on folks who are going to be attacked in society or who are going to be ostracized or actively harmed in some way. And so we want to show our support for people and our solidarity, but we also want to strengthen our community and strengthen our resolve to create things because creation is an act of rebellion against people who don't want to hear it. So I thank you for everything that you do. And you know what? Because I love you so much, I'll give you some points on this board so you can win the game.
Oh,
Because
fantastic.
we've talked about most of these topics actually.
We sort of got, yeah, we sort of did, actually.
But let me go through them just to make sure. Can you shout out some of your collaborators? Because you are working with so many great people, and you've mentioned Stuart, but who is Stuart for people who don't know?
So if you don't know Stuart Keycheck is one of the founders, well, not founders. Stuart Keycheck is one of the first faces you'll ever see in Sidekick Productions, because he's been there from the beginning. He plays Father Anglicus in Skeleton Crew, Barth the Ogre in Demon Doctor. He's in all of our movies. He's had a role in everything that I do. So Stuart Keycheck is also the reason that we filmed Skeleton Crew, because he was behind the camera for all of season 1. So he is one of the most important and pivotal members of Sidekick Productions, because he helped us get to where we are now, and he started it out. Paul Anzulis is our self-designed, self-taught makeup artist who does some incredible makeup effects in Demon Doctor, The Brooklyn Butcher, Taste of Youth, everything we've done. All of our makeup is pretty much by him. We really haven't had anybody else do that. Nikia helped write the music for the musical episode of Skeleton Crew and did a lot of our sound effects. He co-directed A Taste of Youth with me. Um, I've I mean, so many people. Mark Eugene Garcia has been one of my mainstay actors for a while. He is my co-star in A Taste of Youth. My
He's
co-star in
amazing at Taste of Youth.
He's so good. He's so good. Reverend Yolanda is been there from
Oh,
the beginning as well. She's a brilliant trans actress who is just so talented, so moving. Everything she does.
yeah.
Um, there's some things in Skeleton Crew she does I'm just so moved by. Barbara Thomas, again, another wonderful actress I've worked with for years. Uh, Andrew Carter has been there from the beginning, even though
Oh, he's
he
great.
sneaks
Yeah.
around a bit, but he's one of the best, most reliable people to have. Christian Marte, another person that I've worked with for years. I bounce so many script ideas off of him, and he reads them and listens to them, and I'm so grateful for that. Um, I could tell you everybody really if you wanted to, because everybody who's involved in Sidekick is so important. I mean, Defear Jackson has helped me get Homophobia's out. Alvin Christmas is a new member of Sidekick Productions, but he is a producer on the contract, and he's really helping support a lot of that.
Okay.
Uh, uh my goodness. Who else? I don't want to forget anybody, but well, everybody basically in all the movies that we do are people who are around. One of the things you'll notice if you watch any of our things in Psychic Productions is that I tend to use a lot of the same people because I love to
Yeah.
create with the people that I work with. Oh, actually, Monique Menard, I can't forget her because
Oh,
she's been there
yes.
from the beginning as well. We produced. She's the only person we produced the show of that I did not create, which is The Art of Blowing It, and her show is now on the second season. We're making it right now, so that comes out
Oh,
later this
oh,
year.
great.
Um,
Okay.
Jay Serio is my co-star in Skeleton Crew, and he is one of the reasons that Skeleton Crew is as amazing as it is because he is such a wonderful performer, and he and I have great chemistry together. Um, yeah, I everybody who is on IMDb under a Sidekick production show, I would encourage you to go out and learn more about them because they are brilliant people, both on my shows but on their own work as well that they do. So
Brilliant. And that's exactly why I ask about this, because in the spirit of helping to talk about the whole strengthen the whole community together. And I also want to invite some of them to be in the horror mosaic too.
yes, you
But
absolutely should. Some of them are great people to talk to. I mean, I know that you have some of my favorite interviews that I've seen. So with some of my favorite people. So I can't wait to see who
thank
you
you.
bring on because they are some great people to talk to.
Well, thank you so much. That's really awesome. And let me check. Is there anything on the Connect Four board that we didn't get to talk about that you would like to cover?
Um, I mean, I think we've talked about everything for the most part. I guess I didn't talk a lot about Buffy, but Buffy is very influential on
That's
me.
okay. I was just like, just touch on it for a second. You mentioned it. That's good enough, I
I
think.
did touch on it, but I'm actually also in the middle of a rewatch of Buffy right now. So
Oh, great. Oh,
I am
wonderful.
on the season three finale right now. I like to do a rewatch of Buffy every other year probably because
It's
I know that
necessary for the
I know
soul.
that Buffy has for all of the things that have come out about Buffy, Buffy is still a very influential show for people of my generation and my age
Yep.
group. And I think that not recognizing that it had a huge impact is doing a disservice to all the amazing people who worked on it because one
Yep.
person didn't just create that show. And
Yeah.
if you because Charisma Carpenter is on TikTok now. She just joined TikTok, and I've watched a lot of her TikToks where she talks about how she still loves the show and she doesn't want to take away from people loving the show because it is so powerful to so many people.
Absolutely.
Even if one person did something wrong on that show, that doesn't take away from everybody else being the power that it has for the folks who grew up with that.
Yeah.
I also think it's different than a book, for example. Who if you find out that an author is problematic, which we're having issues with that right now.
Yeah.
Well, we constantly seem to have issues with that, but that's another story.
Right.
But a show is made by an army of people. It's not just made by one person,
Yes.
and so is a film. So
Yep.
you don't want to take away from the people that all the work that they did to create something that is so important. I think so.
And that's another reason I ask about the collaborators too, because I want to highlight how collaborative filmmaking is and how it takes so many different people with so many different talents to come together to create something, which is part of what makes it so unique in the arts, you know?
It is. I loved that the thing with even writing a book I realized was more collaborative than I thought it would be. Because but I it's not in the same way though. And if I didn't have to fear, I could have done it on my own if I really wanted to do the work, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't have felt supported in the same way. And so having to fear there made making the book Homophobia so much more worthwhile because
Yeah.
I was able to really have someone to work with, and that's collaboration is just so it's so important, it's so special, it's what makes all of this so much better and so much more important than what we do. So
Yeah, because it's about connecting with other people, and connecting with people through art is like a very soulful experience, you know? And so I think that's partly why people seek it out so much and have such powerful experiences when they do it. So thank you for sharing about it.
Of course. Thank you for asking about it. I think you're one of the only people I ever talk to who asks that kind of question, and I think it's so beautiful and so valuable. And I think that that's great that you do that.
Thank you. Thank you. So Joshua, you won the game. And so I have to
Yay!
give you your prize. um, we talked about ESL. So whenever I started ESL, I used to teach the very young ones, 4 or 5 years old. And when you're teaching them online, you have to give them rewards for doing a good job. And so that's all I can offer you until I make my donation to the contract. So this is your award for now. And here you go. You won the show.
Oh, I love it.
Good
It, it it
job.
it sets me up for hard eyes in a few weeks. So
Yeah, oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Okay. So there you go, Joshua. You win the heart, and I hope that you've won the hearts of all the people watching this. I know you have. But everyone watching this, please go make a donation to the contract, help Joshua Pangborn and everyone over there in the Crewniverse make their movies at Sidekick Productions because what they're doing is really fun and it's important, and we want to see more of it.
I really appreciate that, and thank you all, everybody, for listening to me ramble on about what we do because uh, I love it. So, and I love being able to bring it all to you.
Thank you, Joshua. And everybody, thank you for watching this. And we'll have Joshua back to talk about more stuff in the future, I'm sure. And thank you for playing the game and for being the guinea pig with this game.
Thank you for having me, and I love to be experimented on. So, I don't know where that came from, but